Hey, Road Trippin' fam. We are excited to let you know that Road Trippin' is proud to be presented by FanDuel. Never played NBA Daily Fantasy on FanDuel before? Well, check this out. Right now, FanDuel is offering up to a $500 bonus instantly when you make your first deposit with a 20% deposit match. Why should you play on FanDuel NBA? Well, for one, it is easy to use when it comes to their app. What's not to love about that? But also, for example, they offer different and unique contests across sports in relation to your skill level. Oh yeah, and get this. You can play for big prizes, single game contests for the biggest national matches, and enter contests for as low as 5 cents. That's right. 5 cents. Simply incredible. So again, let's recap. Right now, FanDuel is offering up to a $500 bonus instantly when you make your first deposit with a 20% deposit match. Enter URL fanduel.com/roadtrippin to play now and get your deposit bonus. That's URL fanduel.com/roadtrippin so they know we sent you. FanDuel, more ways to win.
Just Google Richard Jefferson windmill.
All I get is like clips from SpongeBob. Or Spy Kids, the toe monster. All right, fuck you, Richard. I'm gonna do it.
Gentlemen,
What's up?
Oh,
what's happening?
there
Nothing.
he
Another
is.
day.
There he is.
It's too damn early. It's too early for y'all.
Who you telling?
Damn, I can barely get here at 10:45. Y'all at 7:45. Jesus.
Oh, what are you talking about? Allie, think about it. She's got to wake up and do hair and makeup. So she's been up for 2 hours.
Ooh,
Ain't no-
that much?
Ain't no hair for sure in two half of this.
Yeah, tell him.
Yeah, I
Tell
gotta
him,
start
Mike.
beating.
Jay,
I
how
got
you
kids.
doing?
I've been up since 6:15.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, but
Ready to go.
we got kids over here. So my kids have been up since 6.
Okay.
Like so it
Yeah,
ain't.
yeah.
It's
We're-
like this is a normal standard. Like I've been up for days type stuff. I don't sleep.
okay. That's
Yeah.
not so bad. See, my son is 13, and he leads an NBA lifestyle already. So my son last night at midnight Eastern on a school night, he's like, Dad, I got to check out of this Dallas Lakers game. I'm like, yeah, you got to check out. Take your little ass to bed. Take your little ass to bed. And the first thing, he taps me this morning because he's up for school. I wasn't even up yet. Taps me, Dad, Mavericks held on. I'm like, dude, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. Go to class.
Listen, man, be proud. Be
I
proud.
am.
My 4-year-old sits on my lap. He doesn't really care, but every time he'll sit on my lap and be like, "Who are the ones in the blue?" I'm like, "That's the Dallas Mavericks." He's like, "Who is the team in the red?" And I was like, "That's the Chicago Bulls." And he's like, "Oh, who Michael Jordan played for?" I'm like,
Oh, wow.
"Exactly."
Wow.
Well, the Jordan documentary was a big thing in our house. Like 2 days, like every Sunday, I was like, "Guess what's the day?" I just hyped them up until they started getting it, and then they would play Legos while I watched. But they picked it up. They love Space Jam, so they're.
That's good.
You know what's crazy? I haven't even watched that yet.
I've never seen Space Jam either.
No, not the original. I'm talking about LeBron's Space Jam.
I've never watched the original.
Ooh, wow.
Channing, I never watched the original. I certainly haven't seen.
You probably got other stuff to do. But.
But that's inexcusable for me, given
Yeah.
And Last Dance was
Amazing.
Last Dance was kind of controversial in our house because he got to see watching my son who he plays a point guard. He's started to play AAU now. He's like, Dad, there are 4 fouls on that play and nothing was called. I'm like, okay, that teaches you something.
Yeah.
You'll learn something.
There's always lessons. There's always lessons.
Always. Wait, I'm gonna show y'all something as we start. I gotta show you guys something because I know you'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Everybody got that uncle that run like that. They're like, oh shit, the grill. Who took the them dogs?
Yeah.
So last year, like Magic had his 60th birthday party,
Yeah.
and only Magic after the party, which is in Europe, and some of us traveled and privileged to be invited. Magic sends people gifts. It's his birthday, but he sends gifts. And here's what he sent me.
Oof.
Game worn 1992 Dream Team jersey.
I'm probably gonna steal that from either you or your son. I don't know who's gonna gift it
Oh
to.
my.
That's
I'm
ridiculous.
framing this goes someplace. I haven't even figured out where to put it yet.
Oh,
You
well,
mean-
just throw
In
it
a
back to the
safe?
floor.
a
Just throw it back on the floor.
Channing, you say in a safe? That's great.
In a safe?
In a safe.
What?
I know, and I called him. I was like, seriously, I was emotional over it. I was like, Irvin, did you send this to the wrong person? It says, aren't you supposed to be keeping this? He's like, dude, I got a couple. I know you'd appreciate it. You were there because I was there for every thing with the Dream Team the whole summer, from San Diego camp to the medal ceremony. I was like, man, I don't even know if I can exceed. He's like, man, shut up. Put that up somewhere. Pick up. I'm like, my pickup day is over.
So wait, we could always edit this. So those practices, right? Obviously, they talk about the one last practice. Was every practice like that?
Close to, because like they would come out of practice, Channing, and first of all, they would either before or after, they would still do competitive stuff. Like Michael and Coach K would play golf and come back, and one night I guess Coach K, it was PJ.
Yeah,
Michael and PJ would play, and they'd come back talking about the round, and then I think it seems to me like Lenny Wilkins was playing tennis. They would do competitive stuff all day. But the practices, I was standing outside of the practice when they came out. Even the practice early on when they played against Chris Webber and Grant Hill and Gary Payne, they played all those guys, and they came out. They were angry, like they had lost a playoff game to lose that one game. And in the practices, MJ and Clyde had to be separated. It's like to hear them talk about it in real time was like, damn. And now it's taking on legendary,
Oh yeah.
It was just, and I know we get. I don't get into that whole this era, that era basketball. But it's just like, guys, like you can watch enough films of the 80s and 90s fights and see guys not thrown out.
Yeah.
And see like a fight breaks out in the second quarter and you see the same guys playing in the fourth quarter of that game. Like so we don't need to tell you, oh, this game is soft and this people couldn't play in this. Like that's not what this is about. It's just like saying
it evolves.
The game has evolved.
Yeah. It has. I know you guys I know we should get started. I mean,
we've already started. You're good.
Oh, good.
I'm going to flip the script here for a second. And just say we have started our edition of Road Trippin' presented by FanDuel, because sometimes when you have a guest and it's just too real and the conversation is just too easy, you just dive right in. I'm Allie Clifton, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, and he is a dear friend. I adore him to my core. You know him obviously as one of the co-hosts of ESPN's Pardon the Interruption, but you've also probably read some of his stuff over the years.
If you're old,
see him everywhere. Michael Wilbon. Continue.
Yeah. Allie and Richard and Channing. Well, on that theme, I got to tell us one story, and then we go whatever direction you guys want. So, Richard, there's a Sunday afternoon game, playoffs. I think it's game 5, but it might have been game 4. So it's Celtics Pistons in the 80s. And it was right after Bill Laimbeer had taken down Larry Bird, taking him down like they were in a rodeo. I mean, just took him down like a steer. So we're in Boston Garden. This is when, the media, we're still sitting right on the baseline. You don't have all the stuff you have now. We're sitting on the baseline. And in that game, early in the first quarter, to your earlier point, Robert Parrish, after Laimbeer, he takes a rebound, Robert Parrish hits Bill Laimbeer with 2 closed fists in the face. Bam, bam. All right, Sunday afternoon, national TV, CBS, bam, bam, hits him, knocks him down to the floor. The official was Jess Kersey. I can see it. You can look it up on YouTube. You can see it on YouTube.
Oh, it's going to be a part of our ad.
Jess Kersey looks at Laimbeer, looks at him, stares down him on the floor, and says, "Get up, Bill."
They don't ever understand.
That's it. That was all he said. They played on. It was good.
But you know what's weird about those players is that they had such a unique ability to be able to fight and then go back to playing basketball.
They did.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
They would scrap and this. And that was one of the cool things that you would hear about, like Michael Jordan getting in fights with his teammates. If he was going to do that to his teammates, imagine what he was willing to do to people that were on the other side.
That's exactly. Did you see the clip the other day where Isaiah hits Bill Laimbeer in the head? I mean, hits Rick Mahorn in the head, and Mahorn just like looked at him like, "What are you doing?"
There's a
big
video.
human, by the way. For people who've never seen Rick Mahorn, is a big human.
Rick Mahorn scared me when I was a rookie.
I'm not hitting him. I'm like,
Listen, the best basketball, the only basketball moment of my life that counts largely than pickup was a pickup game in which, so coaches used to make players who didn't play in the game the night before, and Rick was young. Rick was like, Rick is a rookie, didn't play in many minutes. Coaches, so Wes Unseld would make those guys scrimmage against whoever was in the gym. And practices were kind of opening. So if you were a reporter, you were at practice, you better be there. You better be there. You better be paying attention. No cell phones, luckily. So Rick Mahorn would play against people like me after practice, right?
That sounds like Gilbert Arenas at the rec center.
Yes. Now, Gilbert wasn't doing that with the Wizards. They had stopped that. But when Wes was running it, you had to. So, and if you're standing over the side, Wes is like, you know the plays? I'm like, yeah, coach. He's like, get your ass in there. So Rick set a screen on me once and just like, you're not ready for this. You're just sports writer. You're not ready. I played a lot of pickup basketball. Okay. Rick sets a screen, knocks me out. And I got up and I was laughing. I don't know what the reaction was. And Mahorn loves that to this day. He's like told the story. One reason why we got along, Mahorn was like, dude, I can tell you from the South Side, you just didn't pay attention. I knocked your ass out. And it's so fun. It's like, it's evolved, it's different. Thank God it's not.
It's not that. Yeah. You don't want that anymore. You don't want the 70s and 80s. Like dudes almost got people that don't know about the Rudy Tomjanovich, like Kermit Washington, like a dude almost died. Like Rudy Tomjanovich, the coach of the Houston Rockets, literally almost died because now you have guys that are 7 feet tall, 270 pounds throwing haymakers. And then you get, obviously the thing that's most special about basketball over every other sport, in my opinion, in the world, is that the fans are basically attached to us. They're so close to us. There is no other sport that I can think of off the top of my head where fans are sitting like on the bench. They're in the huddle. And so when you have people start fighting and rolling around like these, it makes it. So I understand why David Stern and why they really started making it more and more difficult. But what it did though, this is the flip side of that. People became a lot more mouthy without consequences.
That's a great point.
No, it is true because they know it's like I have to think either I can punch you in the face for what you said because you would never say that to me off this court, or I have to then pay $1 million fine because I'm going to miss 8 games because of a suspension. And that really emboldened a lot of people, like that fake tough guy. You never heard the term fake tough guy in the 80s and 90s. You were either a tough guy or you weren't. And it was like in hockey where they would challenge you. But now you get a lot more fake tough guys. Hold me back. It's just like, we had Jerry Springer on here our last episode, and it was a lot of.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He's
You're following Jerry Springer. You're a Chicago guy.
Jerry Springer's a Northwestern alum.
Yeah.
He went to law school. Some days I'm not sure I should claim him, but Jerry Springer's a Northwestern law school graduate. I'm like, oh my God.
Richard, we were the end of that era of we were the beginning of the fake tough guy era. Like when after that Ron Artest, like the Malice and the Palace thing, they had to shut all that down. But like I remember we were playing the Pistons my rookie year, and I remember and they were good grace, they were good. And I remember I dunked it and screamed, and Antonio McDyess was right in my face. I was like, ah. And I remember I turned and Rasheed Wallace just hoofed me in my chest. He was like, it's just 2 points. And I said, yeah, just 2. I said, just 2. And I'm looking at this like,
a quick tough guy story. So one of these guys you guys will know. So Jerry Sloan was on the Bulls, and the Bulls are trying to get over the top. They could never get to the conference finals. They couldn't get past either Kareem in Milwaukee or Wilt and Jerry in the Lakers because the Bulls were in the West then. So they had a chance to trade and get get Norm Van Leer from, I guess, Cincinnati. And I was a kid. And they went to Jerry Sloan and said, look, we have a chance to get Norm Van Leer to pair in the backcourt with you. Is that okay with you? Well, here's what they had to ask Jerry Sloan. Earlier that year, maybe the previous year, the two of them had a fight in the old Chicago Stadium. And the fight rolled into the concourse during a game. Jerry Sloan and Norm Van Leer fought into the arena. Maybe it was Cobo, it might have been Detroit. So Van Leer would have been on Detroit, not Cincinnati, but he's on Detroit, I guess. They fight. It's a brawl. They're knocking down the popcorn machine. All kinds of stuff's going on. And they have a chance to trade to put Norm Van Leer with Jerry Sloan. They go to Sloan. And each guy has told me this story. It's so great to me because I was a kid then watching the Bulls. And Sloan says, if you don't get a guy who would fight me into the concourse, I'll be disappointed. And they traded and got him, and they got to the conference finals. We still didn't win, but it was a great pairing. And those guys became the best of friends until Norm passed away.
Well, and just a little look into these guys, and people might not know Jerry Sloan, obviously, like the Utah coach for so many years. He's up, and he's a crazy one, but he was up in the Bulls arena. If you've never been to Chicago, you might not know, like his jersey is hanging up there next to MJ, next to all of those guys. But you hear that story about Jerry Sloan and then go back and think about Kobe Bryant going and trying to get Ron Artest after they battled in Houston, about Kobe Bryant signing off on Matt Barnes, guys that will actually challenge him, that won't back down. Those are the guys he wants on his team.
Great point, Richard.
It's the same mentality. Jerry Sloan, he might not go down as the MJs and the Kobes, but he was a high level player, but his biggest strength was his competitiveness.
Yes.
That's why he was a great coach for 20 years. So even though the eras change, the mentalities don't. Great players want people next to them that aren't afraid of them and aren't afraid of the moment. And those are hard to find.
They are.
There's so many like comparisons that happen, right? And we're asked all the time in the media business to compare. For you, who has seen that decade, that era, to then be a part of the evolution, what can you appreciate about this era?
Of it, the skills that are allowed to flourish and be shown, like Richard said, the league had to clean that up. I mean, David Stern knew that. I mean, I was there.
Why did it change?
Well, here's why. I'm going to tell you why it changed immediately. One act changed it. It was David Stern 3 years later, 5 years later, Adam Silver. It had to change. The day that a fight rolled into David Stern in the Bulls-Knicks playoff series, rolled into him on national television. It was a bad look for the league. And so right after that, it changed. I wish I could tell you the year of the series.
Was that because then you had the Miami one where you had Van Gundy holding on to people's
legs. You know what, Richard, it was like every one of these things was the same and like, oh my God. Yes, you are 100% right. But you know what happens if David Stern is sitting there? So all these, you are 100% right. Like the weight of all of them was like, no, you can't have this. But the one where David's sitting there, I mean, I was sitting on the opposite side of the court and I could see it. I could see the fight roll into it. You think, oh my God, this is going to be in David Stern's lap in a second. It was close. But after that, you knew. But the reason Elliott had to go to, like to see the skill now that flourishes, that people are captivated by worldwide. I mean, what happened would have been, people would have been like Kyrie Irving, who I think is the greatest finisher around the basket for a guard ever. I mean, he would have missed more games with people knocking him out. Because guys would tell us in the meet, we're sitting there and Mahorn or Sally or whoever, Ed Neely on the Bulls, they would say, I'm knocking your boy out when he comes in here with that again. And that was just the game evolved, but it had to. Now you can see the skill, the talent, the speed, the quickness, the artistry. Hockey got rid of it too. The NHL got rid of it too, overwhelmingly. But the NBA erased it. And
you remember the forearm check when guys, guard would throw the ball, guard would throw the ball.
I tell my son, Maddie, come in here.
and then you would dribble.
Richard,
And then,
you played at the end of that, right? Did you have a year or two of that?
Yeah, I think
Andy, you had a year or two of that.
Yeah, but it was more of like they had cut it out. But then it was like phasing out. So basically, it was like you would do the foul, and the next thing you know, they'd be like, "Hey, Richard, you can't do that anymore." So then it was. Come here.
You hear Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Frank, get in here. He out here dribbling now.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
I'm Matthew.
What's up, Matthew?
Matthew.
I tell you, don't believe me. I'm like, dude.
Forearm check. That's what you do. Somebody go through the lane. You teach in that lesson one time.
You ran through the lane and we didn't check you. Zeke would take you out the game. He said no freedom of movement. So like Rip Hamilton is going back and forth, and I'm trying to get off of Rasheed Wallace to slow him down for Steph and then get back to Rasheed. It was wild.
He knows that. You know Rip Hamilton.
Who played for the Pistons?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a quick story about, and Channing will probably remember this. You're gonna not like this story, but it's about Steph Curry. So we're playing Steph Curry in the finals now. Fast forward, I'm at Kent Bazemore's wedding with Steph. So we're laughing and joking. It's a year after the championship. And I was telling the story about how our only goal was to beat him up. Now you can't do it in the same way. You can't do it in the same way that you could in the 80s or 90s. But if you came up in that era, you know the little cheats, right? And so Steph goes through the lane, and we're telling the story. He goes through the lane, and I remember T. Lou was on film, and he was like, "Richard, you need to be denying here. You don't need to be at the free throw line." And I go, "Coach, Steph was going through the lane, so I wanted to body check him before he got going." And T. Lou goes, "You know what? That's okay. I get that. Any other time, I want you over there." But this is what was so funny. So I'm telling the story to Steph at the wedding, and he looks at me and he goes, "That's why I threw that mouthpiece. That effing hurt." And I'm only not cussing because he goes, "That's why I threw that mouthpiece, because that effing hurt." I was so mad. And I was like, "Steph, you know it's not personal." He's like, "Dude, I 100% know it's not personal." But it was like, I remember getting body checked and being like,
that was in game 6.
yeah. And he was like, "No one's going to call that."
I remember he threw the mouthpiece.
Yeah, he goes, "No one's going to call that." So then he got more frustrated over the course of the game. But I'll never forget, we were at the wedding sitting across from each other. And he was like, "That's why I threw my mouthpiece." I was so mad. I'm just getting beat up. And it was
like this, the whole game.
Whole game. And Steph is, and look, Steph is, like, those are the little things that you can try and do because Steph is uncontrollable and unstoppable. But I laughed so hard because I vividly remember T. Lou kind of yelling at me. And then he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, if you were off your spot, we're good with that." If you were, and he saw me hit Steph.
Oh, hang on. Before he goes, who wins in a game of 1-on-1? You or your pops?
Oh, me, no doubt about it.
He does.
No doubt about it.
There we go.
That's the advantage you get when your father's 49 years old when you're born. You can beat him early in basketball.
Oh, that's awesome. So what high school is he going to?
We don't know yet. That's up for discussion now.
Don't say Brophy.
I'm glad he didn't hear that because I'm thinking about it, Richard.
Don't say Brophy.
No. Well, he's probably gonna go to school here in DC. There's an equivalent to Brophy in terms of just Jesuit. I went to St. Ignatius in Chicago, which is that school. Gonzaga High School here. And you know what? I don't think there's ever been. There was a guy named Mark Tillman from Georgetown who played in the league for a minute. But I think he might be the only Gonzaga High School player from here. But it's a tremendous school.
Are you
Brophy? We'll have to have this conversation later.
Yeah, we'll have to have. Channing's a St. Mary alum, so he's a rival. And then
that's right, Channing.
Yeah, Channing's St. Mary's.
Can we go back to Arizona now? Can we really bring this all together?
Hey, how about Jason Fontenette's son is a sophomore and they won the championship last year?
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Dude, crazy. How small the world is.
Okay, see, I thought not growing up there, I thought, was St. Mary's a girls' exclusive?
It used to be,
pretty much. It still is. It's
co-ed. Okay. All right. I don't want to get you two fighting this early in the day.
Oh, no. It starts. Listen, it's all right. Listen.
It never ends.
He went to a 2A school. I went to a 5A school. We're playing the big boys.
Okay.
Like he's Trader Joe's, I'm Whole Foods. Right?
But first of all, I was the best player in the state, regardless of class. That's all that matters.
Richard,
It doesn't matter if it was 1A, 5A.
That is sort of a trump. That's sort of a trump card. Richard, wait, I have to tease Richard. And Channing already knows this. Allie, I don't know if you know this. So I don't know. I'm in Arizona one day. I got nothing to do. I said, let me just drive to Tucson. It's one of those beautiful days. You know, I'm gonna get in the car for a little bit, go to Tucson. So I go. I don't even know where I'm going. I just want to see Tucson. It was when I first started being in Arizona a lot. I get to campus, and I sort of just found it on my own. And I turn my car right. I look left, and there I see, in all its grandeur, the Richard Jefferson Pavilion. I'm like, oh my God, he's got it like that? The Richard Jefferson is like
disgusting
complex, Channing.
It's rat infested. He doesn't pay the bills for it. It smells like poop.
Do you
bad
guys want to
septic problem.
I'm glad you brought that up, because literally I'm putting the last payment on that thing in a couple months.
Richard, congrats, and all teasing aside, it's so impressive, man. And they got to be so proud of you, and you have to be of the institution to make that kind of commitment. Hats off, man. That's a phenomenal thing.
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? To say like, hey, this huge practice gym is going to be, and it was like either me or Gilbert probably had the funds to do it. So I was like, I can't let Gilbert, can't let Gilbert name go on.
No,
God.
You know what? For me, it was, I'm from Phoenix. I went to, you know what I'm saying? So like I was a local kid. I did that. They didn't ask Channing. He wasn't of that caliber.
I got a brick. That's a effing expensive ass brick I had to pay for.
Yeah,
look, it wasn't no regular brick.
No,
Hold on, will you share your Lou Olson story?
Yeah. Growing up on the south side of Chicago, the Big Ten is a local experience to us, right? All of it. And on Saturdays in Chicago, particularly in the fall, you see people wearing their sweatshirts. That's what people do on Saturday there. Football season, basketball season, and Notre Dame. But you see Iowa and Minnesota, because we're the hub. I mean, when people are trying to get out of wherever it is they're from, they're trying to get to Chicago. That's just the reality. And so when I was a kid, Lute Olson recruited Chicago when he was a coach at Iowa. And my best friend, his name was Kenny Arnold. Bob Knight recruited him as well. But to see these guys come in your neighborhood to recruit a kid was crazy, right? And so that's the area which, I mean, we had a lot of great guards. We had Ricky Green, who is a little old.
Ricky
you guys
Green.
probably know
remember Ricky Green. Yeah.
And he's 2 years older than me. A certain guard from the Philadelphia 76ers, Mo Cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Mo played for my uncle. And so we had all these great guards. And then coming on to my age, Darrell Walker lived down the street essentially. And Kenny Arnold played for Lute, wound up saying yes to Iowa, played for Lute. Lute's hair was already salt and pepper.
Already gray.
This is 19. So Kenny was a freshman there in 1978 at Iowa. He got to the Final Four. Ronnie Lester.
Ronnie Lester, the legend. Oh no, we know about Ronnie Lester.
I know you guys know
Ronnie Lester got hurt. They stand by that. They stand by.
Man, I love Ronnie Lester.
I feel like they had beat Indiana earlier in the year.
Earlier
in that year, and then Ronnie Lester gets hurt, and then they lose. I think Indiana might have won the national championship.
They lost to Louisville in the semifinal. Ronnie Lester scored the first 10 points of the game. It was 10-10. He hurts his knee. They lose the game. I think he played the rest of the game, hobbled through it. And then he was never the same. I mean, Ronnie Lester was, for people who look and say, why was he drafted that high? Why did it make it big? Because when you had that knee injury back then, you were done, essentially.
Yeah.
But my friend Kenny Arnold played in the Final Four. A guy I played every day with, played in the Final Four and started for Iowa and Lute. And Lute remembered me when I went up to Lute, Richard, when it was back in the Steve Kerr days. I mean, it was back then. Yeah. I went up to Lute and I introduced myself to him. And I said, I was in the playground and I was in the gym. The gym then meant Simeon's gym. Simeon
Derrick
Rose, Simeon. And he said, we talked, and he said, those were great days coming to Chicago, doing what I did. He was in Arizona then.
Yeah.
And after that point, so for the last 30 years, I would stop and Coach Olson would treat me like I was a kid that he remembered from that time, man. So I felt, I rooted, I was a maniac rooting for Arizona, except for one game, Channing. I'm not going to mention.
I know it. Yeah, mention that bum ass loss that he took. That bum ass. We haven't been to the Final Four since Channing botched that.
No, he didn't. Channing played great in that game.
Yeah, Channing was awesome.
Oh, speak on it.
Channing was great.
It's only so I can't bring the ball up the court.
Oh, you sound like Tom Brady. I can't
You
throw the ball and catch it. You sound like Tom Brady. You can't do that. No, but you know what was so funny about Lute Olson, and even when he had the ties to the Midwest, and when he left to go back to the West Coast and took over a program that had never won, he continued to recruit the Midwest as well as
Chicago.
Love Chicago because he had connections there. But Michael Wright, who I played with,
Michael Wright, yes.
Yeah, God rest his soul. He played with Kevin Garnett and played with Ronnie Fields, and there were just a ton of But
Will Bynum.
Will Bynum was.
Remember they had that show where Will Bynum, Eddie Curry.
I recruited Will.
Oh,
but you know what was so crazy about Lute and obviously like his legacy is Lute was very, very sharp until the end, right? Like he remembered everybody. He knew all of his Iowa because he was at Long Beach City College, Long Beach State, Iowa, and then that. So I want to switch gears and talk about the Arizona hire. I actually talked to Coach Lloyd last night, and I expressed to him, look, I fully support the program and I fully support the hire. I love what you guys did at Gonzaga. You guys have built an amazing thing. But I want to talk to you about process because I made a post on social media, and the thing about process was this, and I want to make sure because this is the first time I'm truly talking about it. When a program like Arizona has a hire, it's okay if you hire Coach Lloyd. That's fine. He's not a head coach. He's not this, but he is probably one of the best, most respected assistant coaches in the country and has been for a decade. My issue with this is not so much that the contract leaked and all of their stuff, but the fact that this is how it goes. And I'm explaining to people. When a coaching job like that offer opens up, you need to interview 10 alumni, not 3. Because those 10 alumni, now they got to practice in being interviewed. They can put that on their resume. And now you are helping the Arizona legacy go further because you're giving these guys these interviews, because you're giving these guys these opportunities. So there was a shit ton of alum that were upset. Not necessarily. Look, the hire was that people weren't necessarily happy about the hire, but the fact that like it got leaked when 3 African-American candidates are still about to be interviewed and there's no African-American head coach in the Pac-12 when 70% of the players are African-American. Are African-American. And then you didn't interview guys like Brett Brillmeyer, Braze, who, was Coach Olson's grandson. Sure. You didn't interview all of the guys just to give them a shot, because now you're helping grow the tree by allowing that interview. And there is just a ton of people. It's not Coach Lloyd's fault, but I just think that the process could have been a lot smoother.
Richard, I was nodding in agreement. I believe it must have been on the jump where you talked about the difference between the schools back east, starting with North Carolina, which obviously was going through a similar time in Arizona. And it's a great point. I certainly had not thought of it. You made me think of it that day when you talked about it. But here's, to me, yes, when you're Arizona, your profile needs to be, you don't need to be just a school of the West. You're too good for that, right? But one of the ways you do that is to sort of showcase the talent, the tree, the people that Coach Olson begat. Even if it's a second generation guy, one of his guys begat that guy. I completely agree with you. They missed an opportunity to let's say it's a week. Let's say you give it a week. That's a week of local and regional news. That's a week of like, boom. I know we might have discussed, probably Tony and I probably would have discussed it. I would have said something because I'm a Lute. I love Lute Olson. So there's opportunity I feel that was missed because they did not. Let me tell you something. They should have brought you both in to consult to just talk about this.
Yeah.
This is what schools do when they're steeped in that sort of tradition. And Richard, the best part of that point for me, somebody who lives in both worlds, East and West, is that the difference between the way they do that in the East and the way the Western schools do it, it's huge. And I'm with you. They should have taken a little time. First of all, know who the next candidates are, so you can recommend one of your own, your institutional own. But that takes institutional memory and institutional appreciation. But it's good you have pulled their coattails on this, because listen, man, you and Channing, and you guys aren't the only ones, but you are front and center out there and doing an incredible job as ambassadors. I know that's not the job, but that's still what you guys wind up being for your university, for your alma mater. So now, man, I'm 100% with that. It's like, okay, you can hire whomever you hire, but you showcase what you've got, what you produce, what you're about, what you're selling. You do that, and somebody didn't have that marketing sense.
Just like they did, to your point, both of you guys were in such support on the women's side.
For sure. Dia Barnes, they went and got a Dia Barnes.
Here's my thing, though. If our players or are the guys that work their way, obviously I'm going to use Damon Stoudemire, right? Damon Stoudemire has gone through the real grind. He didn't just go get an automatic coaching job. He was like president of operations and assistant coach, and then he was coach of the year in that conference.
Yeah.
Then you look at Josh Pastner, then you look at these other guys, right? Most of these guys, and I'm just going to speak this vaguely, all these guys want that job.
Right.
That is the reason why they go through the grind, right? It's awesome that Josh is at Georgia Tech. Obviously, he loves it. Obviously, Damon loves his job at Pacific. But if they were all given the opportunity to come back and put their imprint on the University of Arizona, it would be different. It would be that dream job, right? For me, if I ever got into coaching, obviously I got to see what's happening at U of A. And then everything else is after that. Even if I got to take the lowest job on the totem pole and work my way up. I think we love the school that much. The school has given that much to us. And like, we're a family, so we wouldn't want to see it go outside the family without due process. And that's where I agree with Richard.
You all are just raising good points. I think that's, to me, it's unarguable.
Yeah.
This is how you go about that when you're still, because it gives you an advantage. I mean, right now, look, I'm old enough. Yes, I remember UCLA dominating the West, dominating the country, dominating Pac-8. I'm old, Pac-10, Pac-12. But man, Arizona basketball subsequently has been, it's been the crown jewel of the conference. So there's ways to flex without flexing.
The one thing that I'll
say,
the
leather seats, not the
that's right.
But look, I understand, the presidents and the ADs, they have a very difficult job. I don't question that, but I will say this though. All presidents and ADs listen out there. When you have a legacy program like in Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, the strength, as much as you want to believe, is the name on the front of the jersey. That's only 50% of it. It's the names that were on the back of the jersey that made the name on the front of the jersey worth something. And I don't mean that, it's the players. And no. I mean that, like, all of the guys that Channing played for 4 years, I played for 3 years, Damon played for 4 years, Mike Bibby won a national championship, Miles Simon was, player of the year, I donated money to the gym. All of that was our names representing this university. So, and I don't think that person has to get the job. I'm not going to get into that battle because there's, everybody wanted it. But ultimately understand that if you don't have the support of the names of the back of the jersey, the name on the front of the jersey doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. It's like when somebody says, hey, where do you want to send this kid that like there's a really good kid out here in Arizona, in Oregon? And I'm like, well, damn, do I send him to Arizona or I don't know? Now, obviously, where's hypothetical? Or do I send him to Damon? Or do I send him to Josh, who I know, how they teach, who's taught them, and what they're about? And that's really it. It's like when Richard and I say, man, you got to go to Arizona. This is what it's like. You'll be part of our alumni. You could do this. We'll, help you with this. That's different when you reach out to young kids like that. It's just different.
No question.
So it's where you can tell we're still a little fired up. We're still a little.
Well,
But look, and
I text Tommy Lloyd.
And I can't say this enough. I am rooting for Tommy Lloyd. Like I said, I talked to him last night. He did nothing wrong other than be a great coach at Gonzaga for 20 years, right? He did nothing wrong. But this is the message to all the universities out there. You gotta, if you have an opportunity to boost up your alumni, and that doesn't mean necessarily hiring, although that would be nice, it's the opportunity to interview, like Brett Brillmeyer, right? Arizona people know him because he was a player, but then he was an assistant coach for us in San Antonio. He was assistant coach in San Antonio. Then he was an assistant coach in Cleveland with me, Channing, and Bron, and all of those guys when we won the championship.
Instrumental.
Then he went on, very instrumental. He used to rebound for me, Channing, Bron, JR every single day. He was a guy that people could listen to. Fast forward, Brett Brillmeyer then goes to the Nets. So he's there with Sean Marks, and he helps build that franchise and is a part of that growth. He deserves an interview. Just because if he gets an interview, it allows for him to get a job, or he can put that on his resume. That's how you grow your tree. This man has been working for 10 plus years in this industry. And even though he's not going to most likely get it, you can help our tree.
Reward
those and you help your institution.
Yeah.
You help your institution because everybody looking in at this, let's face it, everybody outside looking in this is reminded again of Arizona basketball, how terrific it is, where its tentacles spread, what kind of talent it produces, which, by the way, has to help in recruiting. Because even if that particular thing doesn't appeal to a kid, it appeals to parents.
Yeah.
It appeals to a high school coach. Oh, wait a minute. Coach left and he was at the Nets. He was at so-and-so. Boom. I'm on a search committee right now for athletic director at my alma mater in Northwestern. And that's, all of that. What kind of resources, human resources have we produced? Should we cultivate? Should we bring back? Should we interview? That's a big deal. I agree 100% with you guys.
I don't want to move on. If you guys still have a lot to say,
we can move on. We'll talk about Arizona.
I just know Mike has a heart out in 10 minutes.
Okay.
And there's still so much more to get to, but I will echo this because Wilbon said it to me last night on the phone. You two and I continue to say, obviously I work alongside of you and I give all my time to you both. You've continued to earn this space, earn this right, your voice.
Oh yeah. And by the way, your ability to engage at the high level. Look, I'm gonna say this. Richard knows this because going back to his early career in the NBA, I love listening to him. I love the engagement. I love the shoot around days where the conversation might be totally something different, even though he was 22 years old. It was just fun. He was engaged. I like it when guys are engaged and they can disagree. You can sit around and say, man, you're crazy. Or I love this point. And Channing, I maybe shouldn't mention this, but I am. I didn't know you well enough to come up to you 5 years ago and just talk about this. But man, doing what I do for a living, I got to meet your mom multiple times. Such a wonderful, brilliant, accomplished woman in our field in television. And, just losing her at that age, man, the way I don't even know how you held it together during that time.
I really did. I can laugh, but they don't do this.
I got to know her, meet her at things in Arizona. There might have even been an NABJ convention in there. I'm trying to think, but anyway.
Oh yeah, she had me go one time. I had to go sit outside. Yeah.
All right. See, I
didn't have a babysitter, and I was like, damn. She was like, well, come, and she made me go to like the little side, the many people thing, and I was like, I want to be here for this.
Yes,
you were triple the size of all the kids your age.
In the business of communicating, but I'm tying those two together. The ability to tell stories, to tell them responsibly, to be engaged, to have this discussion. I love it. Channing, when I started to try to get in touch with you and I saw you on NBA TV one night, because I know, basketball is the venue right now. You guys can talk about anything. Your intellect, your levels of education, your parenting, all of that. Look, man, you see plenty of fools on the air. You see plenty of fools. We see people we want to throw. I know I want to throw off with a big cane and I'm proud when I see you guys.
I appreciate that.
Because of the level. I'm engaged. I am engaged when I hear you guys. I know I'm going to be engaged when I turn it on. So thank you for that. But I'm proud to know both of you and have seen that growth.
Well, Mike, and again, I know we wanted to talk about basketball today. We knew that was not going to happen. We got Zach
still have
coming.
3 stories that we have to get to.
Okay, really quickly. But before we get off, I just want to make sure that people understand that, like, Michael Wilbon in the sports space is the same as a Michael. Don't interrupt me. Is like the same as like a Michael Jordan. Is the same as like a Kobe Bryant. Where the generation underneath him, right? When you started PTI and your relationships and like even your stories, like, you know, you're a mentor, and all of us, like, you have sent me a text. You, like, we might not talk for 6 months, and I get a text from Mike Wilbon, and it's just like, hey, I really liked your point right there. And you're just sitting here like, okay, I'm doing something right. I'm doing something right.
Probably said that a long time ago.
Yeah, whatever. Shut up, Shannon. But it's just like, I can't tell everybody enough how much guys like Mike Wilbon have impacted the entire broadcasting tree and the culture of the game of basketball and sports. So it's just, I just want to say thank you for all of your support. Allie has stuff that she wants to talk about now.
Go ahead, Allie, jump in. You know you wearing a t-shirt I love, by the way. You know that.
She did that on purpose.
I did this for you, and guess I've had it for like 10 years. I got it at a thrift store.
How about that?
How are your Browns fans going to feel about that, Allie?
Yeah.
I did it for the guests.
Okay, all right. In that case,
I love the Browns.
golf clap.
With that said, Channing had his Michael Jordan moment. And you are very close to Michael Jordan. And you also have an awesome story. You've told me so many stories, but one I want you to really be able to share. You were in his office. You were alongside when he would take calls from Kobe.
Yeah. People, you know, until the funeral, to the, you know, memorial, people they didn't know that Kobe and Michael were so close. And they were stunned by it, and they were stunned by Jordan's public emotional output. I wasn't, because I had a glimpse, you know, into it. When Michael came here to Washington, by then I hated trying to cover him. We had gotten to the space, and you guys know this, that there are people that can always act distant, and there are people who their personal lives become involved in the relationship, as I think should happen. Charles Barkley. Charles is one of my best friends. At one point, I was covering him like everybody else, and then stuff transitions, and you know.
Now you're writing his books, editing his books.
Yeah, 2 books together. and Michael, it was more personal, really, than professional in some ways. And I didn't want to cover him anymore. But sometimes I'd go to the arena and sit in his office too, because I'm writing for the Washington Post at the time, and he's managing, GMing essentially the Washington Wizards. And Kobe, he idolized him, and you know, we saw at the end, at that memorial, when Michael teared up, more than teared up, cried, and said he had been like a little brother pain in the ass. That is no exaggeration. So during all of Michael's, I beat a game at Staples Center, and Kobe, let's say, had 45 and 9, which, you know, could happen a whole bunch of nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he knew that I thought that Jordan would always be the greatest. He knew I was of that opinion, and I covered him, and I talked to him. And Kobe, with that line of reporters that's outside the door waiting to get in the locker room, Kobe would sometimes just sort of, you know, drift over and give me an elbow in the ribs or elbow in the back. And he would say, "Would your boy have done that tonight? Would your boy have done that?" Huh? And I would say, and he would whisper it. Nobody else knew what was going on. And I said to him one time, let me talk about when you do that, people will get the humanity of it. He's like, no, they won't. They'll kill me. So I never talked about it until Michael sort of talked about it, until he was sadly gone. But it was so funny. And I would say, I'm going to call him now. And Kobe would say, go ahead, pull out the cell phone. Let's talk to the old man. Let's see if the old man was watching. And it meant so much to Kobe, that sort of byplay that showed, for anybody who really understood the context of it, it wasn't hard. That's how much he loved Michael. That back and forth is how much he loved him.
Well, the one thing that I'll say that I heard, and it still resonates with me, because all of us as athletes, we push ourselves. We push ourselves to our physical limits, our mental limits, our emotional limits, but there's always athletes that can push themselves further. And there's some athletes, just like every other athlete, that just it's a crippling ability, right? Like, when Michael Jordan said, he goes, Kobe, like, he's cursed just like I am.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That was to this day, that is the biggest compliment and one of the saddest things that you will ever hear, because they are cursed with this level of competitiveness that pushed them to a level of greatness that no 10 people on this planet will ever experience. But the curse is also that it just consumed them. Right. And that's all they could focus on. And they know that that's not their balance, but that's their gift. And it goes back and forth. And it just, when you hear that, and it's true, like, there's only certain people, not the talent, right? Talent is like this, is a little bit, but it's the work ethic and it's the mentality that's the equalizer.
Richard,
you know?
you're 100% right. So that line, I mean, you got down to the line that explains the commonality, the bond between the two of them that Michael could recognize in Kobe and probably didn't see. So this leads to the whole second career thing, right? So I did. It's still out there, still online somewhere. I did what was probably the last interview with Kobe as a active player, and we talked about storytelling. Like he had decided that maybe, and I don't know how much Michael figured into this. Maybe he looked at Michael and said, "Okay, I'm not going to do this forever. I'm gonna get rid of this, or channel it, or harness it, or edit it." But the whole storytelling career. I mean, he looked at the difference between Magic and Michael in the basketball universe is very little to me. They're both on my Mount Rushmore. But Kobe wanted that second life like Magic, that second life that, I worked with Magic for 8 years, like actively all the time, Sundays, Saturdays, whatever, game nights. And I've known him for 40. And Magic, that second life, he didn't want to have to go into it. But once he had to, he threw himself into that with the same passion and attention to detail. And Kobe, with the storytelling, so the first time I sat to interview him, he didn't want to talk about what he had. There's a question where I say, you want to tell us what this thing is, this new thing that's consuming you? And he said, I'm not quite ready yet. He wasn't quite ready to talk about it publicly, but the next time we did it, the last one, he talked about it. And I remember Tony Kornheiser, Tony saw what we had done before it aired. He said, he wants to be Walt Disney. And of course, Tony's always given to this great exaggeration. But even in the exaggeration, there was a whole lot of truth to that. I mean, you win an Academy Award, the second year you retire. That's insane. Yeah, but this is what he threw himself into and wanted to and knew. Like those last year or two he was playing and hurt and all that, he knew where this was going for him. Yeah. And so, Richard, you're right about consumption. Consumption is what they shared, and you could see it. They knew it. And I was just a bystander who happened to be closer in that way, and they both knew that I knew that. And that's why I think I got to share. I feel very grateful that I could be taken into the confidence in that way. And part of it, they knew that was not going to be misrepresented if and when I ever referred to these things. I was going to get it. I got it in real time. When Kobe said that, the look on his face, call your boy. What was it? What would the old man have done tonight? It was such a connection, such pride in his relationship with Michael. And
yeah,
Michael,
I saw one clip online, and I think it was All the Smoke. They were talking to Kobe his last interview, and he said something like him and MJ were talking, and they were kind of going back and forth, and then Kobe goes to MJ, he's like, whoa, hold on, don't forget who you're talking to, right? And everyone laughs. They're like, think about that. Kobe Bryant is the only person where Michael Jordan will hear those words and be like,
hear that from, yeah,
and be like, all right. Yeah. Now again, there's probably Magic Johnson. There's probably some other guys.
It's a small club. You're right. It's a small club.
But current day players, like players that weren't a part of MJ's generation, that he never truly like. I know Kobe got some of that, like when he was young, when he was 18, 19.
Absolutely.
But like they were so similar, and I think that's why Jordan fans loved Kobe. Yep. Right? Loved Kobe because they saw the similarities and they saw that killer instinct. That was something that was the closest thing that you can see.
Yeah.
If you don't mind and have a minute.
I do. Keep
okay.
good.
I got
You
2
walk
points,
away
but
when you're
you
ready to
mentioned
walk
it.
away.
No, we're good.
You
We're good.
mentioned it. Your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Who is that?
My Mount Rushmore is Bill Russell. I'm going to do it chronologically. Bill Russell, Irvin Johnson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. And I know, I mean, to me, if you're going to start telling the story of basketball, you may not start with Russell. You have to start with Mike and sort of just chronologically. But I mean, Russell, my God. I mean, I'm too young still to have, or let me say it this way. I'm not old enough to have seen the greatest of Bill Russell, but I saw the end of Russell. I remember the championship over the Lakers when the Lakers should have won the game in the fabulous Forum. And that's the one where you see Brent Musburger start to interview Russell and he starts to tear up. That was his last game. I was 10. And I remember it watching with my father. And it's Russell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Bill Russell, the greatest winner in modern sports history. Sorry, Tom Brady. But then it's Magic, who Magic went to the finals 9 times in 12 years. 9 times. That's insane. And he went, yes, he had great teams. Everybody who had great teams had great teams. I mean, Magic people say, well, the Lakers of Wilt, they weren't as great as the Celtics. Bullshit. Wilt played with Jerry West and Gail Goodrich and Elgin F. Baylor, boys and girls. And if people don't think Elgin Baylor was great, they better go to the basketballreference.com. That's what he did.
I think was Elgin Baylor was he the highest scorer when he retired? And then
yes, he was, Richard.
And then Wilt passed him.
Wilt, yes. Well, he retired before Wilt. Yes. He was the leading scorer when he retired.
And then Wilt passed him. That's
another thing I love about y'all. You guys constantly, I can see you're constantly studying and bringing historical importance into light. So, Allie, that's my Mount Rushmore. I've said this now for a few years, and to be honest with you, I started to feel guilty about it. I started to feel bad about it in a way. Doing what I do, you sort of get forced to make these judgments, and sometimes I tend to call people. I call people. Like if I'm gonna talk about somebody whose birthday is on our show, or somebody who passed away, or somebody retires, I tend to I'll text Magic. Magic never texts. You got to get him on the phone. I'll text MJ and say, hey, what do you think about this? Charles I talk to every week. And there are other people outside the sport, or coaches, who I got to talk to. Norm Van Leer, rest his soul. Because I want to constantly know, am I okay with these opinions? Would you shout it down? I'm not afraid of that. I do a show with disagreement for a living. I can't be afraid of disagreement.
Y'all started that.
So those are my 4. But the guilt was over not having Kobe there. And it happened before the tragedy. I started thinking about it a lot. And would I change it? You're not supposed to have 5 people on Mount Rushmore.
Well, how about we can give you a second Mount Rushmore? Because I know Kobe hits the second Mount Rushmore, right? So then I want to know the other 3 people, because you're.
How about you just round out? We talked about it last night, Well, how about you just round out your team like Kevin Durant just did recently?
My team.
Yep. Because you also had a couple people there that you were like,
AD did that. Well, okay. So the second, so the bench would be bench. Kobe, Kobe starts it, right? I mean, that's insane for me to say that, but Kobe starts it. Larry Bird, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. How many is that? That's 4 more, right?
Yeah, okay. Now you did not mention Wilt.
No, I got.
He did. Yep.
So I got Kareem, and Wilt, and I get 1 more to get to 7 to get to 12.
No Tim Duncan, no Shaq.
No. Hang on. You said the Big O. You said the Big O. And
Oscar.
Yep.
And yes, Shaq or Duncan. I how am I supposed to choose Shaq?
And you said you struggled with Shaq, or you had Shaq on there. You struggled with Tim and Scotty.
Yes. Okay, and here's something, and you guys know, because actually, did you guys play against Scotty his last season or 2?
I did. I think I did. I played against Scotty because I'll never forget watching him in Portland and watching him spread his wings, right, for the first time in my life, and see that he took away the entire.
Yes.
If you were guarding a wing, if he would, because he was guarding Jason Kidd at the time, and he had Jason on the far wing, and he went like this and spread out his wingspan, like playing defense. Yeah. And from where I was, I couldn't see Jason, right? Because but that was the thing. It's like, having, whatever, as long as Pippen's arms, right? Like he had the longest wingspan for a 6'8" player.
And might have been, Richard, look, I sat courtside. I didn't have to look at video. I got to watch it. You guys played your whole careers. I've gotten now to see Bron and KD and Steph. I've seen their whole careers, but I also saw Michael's whole career. I mean, I covered Michael in college. I was covering the ACC for the Washington Post when Michael was in. I got to see Michael and Len Bias. All right,
now that's a story.
And that Len Bias to me had the most beautiful jump shot I have ever seen. Period. Nope. And anybody who saw that, like I saw it on a nightly basis because I was covering Maryland and Georgetown. I got to in one neighborhood and writing for the Washington Post. Every night I got to pick my game. Here's the guys I get to pick at the same time: Len Bias, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing,
at Georgetown. The
last year of Ralph Sampson. 3-time player of the year. I got to just say, all right, I'm going to go see David Robinson play against so-and-so. And he had 50. And the next night I could see Len Bias play because North Carolina was coming. And I could see Lenny Bias play against MJ. I got to see, I'm so fortunate that I got to see all of that. And that's why, I really appreciate the difference of the eras. But ultimately, the greatness is the greatness, man. It's just like you said, the game evolves, Richard. It does. I got to see all of those guys. And I still do. Like when I'm coming back to Arizona next week. One of the reasons I'm coming back is that Utah plays the Suns. Utah plays the Suns next Sunday, a week from Sunday. Dude,
that's going to be a game.
I got to be there for that.
It's going to be a really good game.
Yes.
Donovan Mitchell comes back.
I'm hoping that Donovan is back. And Chris Paul, by the way, so this is one of those things I'm going through now. I have a vote. I take it very seriously.
Let's go.
Let's throw your stuff up.
I take it very seriously. And so, I'll text Charles and Kenny, and of course Shaq's there now. I'll text those guys during the commercial break to say, hey, I'm sitting here with my ballot. Can I vote for this guy legit? And the funny thing is the comments I'll get back from them, because I'm getting comments from guys who played the game a combination of 60 years between the two of them. So I do that. I'm going to start hitting y'all up too. That's an important thing. So I think, and I'm biased, I'm working on a book with Chris Paul, who I love as a player and even more as a person. And I think that looking at Chris Paul's season, the season he's having, to me, he's in the MVP conversation. I don't care about his numbers. There's one difference, apologies to Jay Crowder, there's one difference between the Phoenix Suns last year and this year.
Totally.
Last year when they were 25 and 36, I think when they went to the bubble, they're 11 under. This year they're 25 over. It's Chris Paul.
And look, this is what happened with Jason Kidd. Now, Jason had some things that forced him to be traded to Jersey.
Right.
But we went from worst to first.
I remember.
Worst to first. And look, yeah, Tim Duncan wins the MVP that year, but there were people that didn't have Jason Kidd on their first team ballot. Let's just call a spade a spade.
That's great.
Jason Kidd took a team from worst to first, and we went on to the NBA Finals that year. So ultimately, we ended up going further. We both lost to the Lakers, but Jason Kidd was the reason, right? Chris Paul is the reason. And anybody that wants to look any differently, look at all of the franchises he's played with. Look at the impact that people thought the OKC thing, would they buy him out? Would they do this? And he was like, no, I'll just take you guys to the postseason. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah,
it was, you know what, Richard? It's so funny. So Chris and I started talking about the book last year during the OKC season. So the first night, Chris called me. We had a long talk. I remember I was in the office. It was in December. And I said to him, Chris, we're just talking, man. I gotta think you're gonna get out of there if you want. He goes, Mike, I'm good. We're gonna make the best of this season. We're gonna be better than people think. Got some young guys who need some mentoring. We're gonna be all right. And I remember thinking at the time, I love Chris, but he's crazy, right? Like this is okay. And what did he do for that team to finish 5th in the West last year?
Yes.
I mean, you guys know better than me. There's no chance.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
So this year, when I'm in Arizona already, we're working together on the project, which I'm very grateful to him for including me. And he, I knew about it a little early, and I'm holding my breath because I figure, whatever people thought was the issue between him and Doc wasn't no real issue. They're close. They talk all the time. They love each other. And I'm like, I know Doc is going to make a play in Philly to get Chris. And Doc, I've known Doc all my life, being both Chicago boys. And when he got there, I thought, okay, they can make a huge jump. And that huge jump is still a 5 or a 6, or maybe it has to be a 7. The West is loaded. And man, to see this, but to talk to him every day because we're working on something and knowing what he knows. And look at Ayton. Look at what happens in the fourth quarter now, what he does with Ayton. You guys know that's all intentional.
Oh, that used to drive me nuts. The first couple of years, and Ayton's an Arizona guy. Known him for years. He goes to Phoenix. Watching Ayton because I kid you not, and I'm glad that you mentioned David Robinson because that was my first favorite player. I didn't really, I love watching Magic Johnson. I love watching this, but like when you like really trigger in basketball, trigger, and then whoever the next stud star, and it was David Robinson, and it was Mr. Robinson's neighborhood. Yeah. He was doing everything, the commercials, the shoes, everything. And it was like, I looked at DeAndre Ayton, I'm like, that looks like David Robinson. He's 7 foot with 0 body fat, right? And it's just like, how was that not? And again, David Robinson was was like 5 years older when he came into the league.
25, 24.
Yeah, because he did the Navy.
2 years.
Did 2 years of service, which was crazy. They were like, dude, the number 1 pick. So it was like he was a grown man, and they looked watching the way Ayton was used, he would shoot more jumpers than post ups. He would do so much. I was like, yo, he's more talented than just a roll and replace guy. And so watching Chris Paul finally help that kid flourish and challenge him and push him, it was that to me alone gets him a point for MVP.
Richard, so last night I'm sitting watching the game with my son, who again is a point guard. And so he said, Dad, why is Chris Paul still in the game in the fourth quarter? They're not going to be able to come back. I said, Matt, watch the next 4 plays offensively and see what happens. I guarantee you he interacts in 2-man game with Ayton. And he said, well, why now? I said, because it's better than practice. It's better than a scrimmage. They need to have the availability of this in the very first round of the playoffs. And sure enough, you can see Chris barking at Ayton, that spot right there, boom, turn, shoot. And okay, it's four possessions in the game against Boston. They can't win. So what? But think of how Chris is thinking ahead to what those possessions could inspire in Ayton against Dallas, whomever. And so, yes, it's like people miss that stuff. And I'm like, I ain't missing that. I mean, okay, so right now, Jokic may be ahead of he is. Embiid is coming back and he's doing his thing. But man, Chris Paul is,
in that conversation.
5 spots.
Chris Paul is the Steve Nash to the Shaq MVP, right? He is the heart and soul of a team, and like his stats don't matter because he's absolutely raised everyone's play that much.
Are they number 1? Are they number 1 right now?
They won't finish 1 either.
They won't.
The Jazz will hold that.
No, the Jazz will hold it.
Their schedule's so hard. Although if they can get they're 2-1 on this 5-game road trip with at Brooklyn Saturday or Friday. And
then Phoenix is 2. They're 2 games behind.
They got at the Knicks on Sunday, which, oh my God, all of a sudden that game's tougher than we ever thought.
What? Julius Randle?
The Knicks fans. Randle. The Knicks fans can't even stand when I compliment them, and they were like, "You're jumping on the bandwagon." I'm like, "Dude,
Richard,
I know you've won 8 straight, but you don't jump on the bandwagon of the 4th team in the conference."
No one is doing that.
No one is doing that, guys.
Who knows how hard it is because you've been there, but it's interesting. I'm messing with Tony, who's a Knicks fan. Tony grew up playing against and with Julius Erving.
Wow.
And I once asked Julius 100 years ago, I asked Doc when he was still playing. I introduced myself and I said, Mr. Irving, I write for the Washington Post. I'm new. I just wanted to ask you. He started. He said, "How's my man Tony?" I was like, "Oh my God, you actually knew Tony?" He said, "On the playground, dude." And I said, "Was he any good?" And Julia, I said, "Was he a total scrub?" And Julia says, "Hey, come on now. Tony's pretty good. Tony had a little game." I was like, "No, I don't even want to hear that. I don't want to hear that."
Tony Kornheiser got the approval from Dr. J.
Oh, Julia,
Legend.
this is not a good thing.
My mom and dad are from Philadelphia, so like Dr.
Oh.
J is royalty. And again, so going back, my parents are both from Philly, and I've told the story about them wanting to meet Kobe and like how crazy Kobe was. But my boy's birthday was January 24th, January 25th. Kobe passes on January 26th, but my parents were in town for that. Now, I've told the thing here about meeting my Kobe. I had to go ask Kobe if he'll, come meet my parents. We were playing in Jersey, and I was just like, "Hey, will you, come say hi to my parents? My parents want to meet you." And we had just beaten them, so it's Kobe. He's like, "You don't want," and I don't know Kobe. I just kind of played against him.
Right.
Came over, so nice, and where are you from? Okay, I grew up here, and he was so nice for 5 minutes that even like Devin George and those guys were like, what's going on here? But so when Kobe passed, my parents were there. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, like they're there for my boy's birthdays. TMZ starts dropping this stuff, and it was just my parents were Philadelphia people, like Philadelphia people. Yeah, it was crazy. But Dr. J was the first royalty.
I'm gonna try to show before I do. I'm gonna try to find this picture real quick. But listen, in close, I gotta say this to you guys because this matters to me. Because I so love both of your introductions into this world, like this second career for both of you. I love it. I love listening to you guys. That is already done. I'm trying to show you this picture, but oh wow, look at the first picture that comes up, and this must be an anniversary of this.
Oh wow!
Oh man,
look at that. When was that?
I think they're wearing the road stuff. So maybe that was in Chicago or maybe that was in Chicago before, one of the last games. Yeah. Last game. But the picture I was trying to find was one where he's with my son, and he saw Matthew on the baseline and came over and said, "Is that Matthew?" I said, "Yeah." And he came over and talked to him. And I've never been allowed to know what was said. I was told to get out of the conversation. And now, of course, I can't find the picture.
It's
but
okay.
He, he was so good like that, Richard, as you know, with people. Mm-hmm. And it takes a special just tolerance, to always have that and to know that's going to be part of your life going forward, that you occupy a space that people want to share. And I was very fortunate. Like you, he walked over to him. I can't believe I can't find the photo. But he walked over to Matty and talked to him and then insisted that Matthew come for that last interview. So for the last interview, I took him with me, and Chauncey Billups had his daughter there, and they got to be around Kobe. Now, Matthew was, I guess, 8, and he never forgot it. We'll never forget it. And but it's one of those things. But you guys have compiled already decades of great stories, and I can't wait to sit around and hear you both tell them, whether they're stories that start in your early lives or bring us up through now. Man, you guys do the profession and the viewers and listeners a great service. So thank you both.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Ali,
gentlemen.
Always thank you for
tolerating us, Ali.
As I wrap the door, I'm saying this one thing, Richard, the coaching thing.
Rod Strickland.
One night, I'm on air with Rod Strickland. Rod Strickland used to do a show in Washington with Kornheiser and me.
Okay.
So, and the great George Michael, another Philly guy. So we're doing a show, and I said to Rod just had, like, everybody remembers crazy stuff about Rod, but Rod just had it. He just has it. Mm-hmm. Up here, he just has it. And so I said to Rod on camera, I said, Rod, don't you want to coach someday? And he's winding up, like next to last year. And he said, Mike, he said, I don't want to coach one of me, much less 5 of me. And of course, the line is uttered in only the way that Rod can. And we just cracked up, like the show had to end right there. We had to go to commercial. And in the break, it's, come on, Rod. Rod said, no, man. He goes, I got a great life. I got stuff I want to do. He's done TV. But then look who wound up in coaching. I called him when it was announced. I'm like, Rod. He just started laughing. He said, I know I'm going to hear that story again. I'm like, yes, you are. I love Rod. And so when you said on the jump the other day, no coaching, I immediately texted you, of course. And I'm like, no, Richard, don't close it off. And here's why. You, and this applies to Channing as well, you guys can reach people. It's the most important part of coaching. Like every one of these guys we talk about, Ludos, everybody has their own way. You guys reach people. My son will be better off having listened to both of you say 2 sentences than hearing from me or even his coach about what basketball was like, the physicality. So I get it. It's hard. It's much more stressful. I tease Jeff Van Gundy whenever he threatens to go back into coaching about the stress, but y'all got the gift of communication and getting people to understand, and probably, if you wanted to, do what you want them to do. So thank you for putting up with me.
You're the man.
Can I let everyone know that Wilbon told me last night we are not going to want to listen to him talk for longer than 45 minutes.
I did.
It's been over an hour, and we can continue.
I can talk to you guys. First of all, Adam and I get to sit next to each other like for years now, and we always have a great time. But again, I'm usually talking to the television. Even when I see Channing now, I'm like, dude has just rolled in and got prominent, right? So I'm proud to know you guys, man.
Thank you, man.
You're the best. Thank you.
All right.
We appreciate your time, Mike.
Hey, Road Trippin' fam. We are excited to let you know that Road Trippin' is proud to be presented by FanDuel. Never played NBA Daily Fantasy on FanDuel before? Well, check this out. Right now, FanDuel is offering up to a $500 bonus instantly when you make your first deposit with a 20% deposit match. Why should you play on FanDuel NBA? Well, for one, it is easy to use when it comes to their app. What's not to love about that? But also, for example, they offer different and unique contests across sports in relation to your skill level. Oh yeah, and get this. You can play for big prizes, single game contests for the biggest national matches, and enter contests for as low as 5 cents. That's right. 5 cents. Simply incredible. So again, let's recap. Right now, FanDuel is offering up to a $500 bonus instantly when you make your first deposit with a 20% deposit match. Enter URL fanduel.com/roadtrippin to play now and get your deposit bonus. That's URL fanduel.com/roadtrippin so they know we sent you. FanDuel, more ways to win.